I tell your dad Happy New Year. Andrew, and this is Gayties Toys. On today's MIA 80s Ladies, much like at the end of 2024, we're doing a bit of a 2025 year-end recap. This is not really a review channel. I'm not going to go through, my top 10 or anything of the sort, but really much more kind of a news update. At the end of every one of my videos, I'll do a final verdict. We'll talk about, what figures, if any, the lady in question has had since the 80s and 90s. And time marches forward, and there's a bit of a good news section to cap off the year to see that we have gotten quite a few great figures this year. So let's just get right into them. We'll start off with really one of my favorites, and you can tell it's one of my favorites because it was one of the first videos I did way back in the day. I don't love going back and seeing those videos. They were a little rocky, let's say. Perhaps someday they deserve some revisiting, but nevertheless, that character being Pythona from G.I. Joe, specifically the movie. She did not get a character, a figure in the 3-pack that came out, and didn't get, any figures until, around, mid-2010s when she was kind of a kit-bashed repaint figure at the very tail end of the 30th anniversary line. And I was, very happy to have gotten something, but, we never really got something that fit into the vintage line or a real new modern take, and that's changed since. 2025, really was a great year for Pythona. First, she came up in G.I. Joe Classified line, nice kind of detailed 6-inch figure. She was, again, a bit of an exclusive with this very confusing rolling con exclusive, but eventually ended up on Hasbro Pulse. Never saw toy stores, but at the very least, she came in this huge deluxe packaging. She came just packed with hands, heads, effects, really moist clam weapons, just a fun, great figure. When, if you're a fan of Cobra Law, and who isn't, just a must-have figure. Her other figure this year came from Super 7, and this is part of their Reaction Plus O-ring figure, so very much in that vintage style. Without the little rubber band to hold them together, which is very welcome, and much more of a cartoon slant to that line. But nevertheless, Pythona introduced, late-ish 2025, and very welcome if you're, just collecting this line as it is, or if you want to slot her into your vintage collection. This is kind of my favorite kind of new character, release, in the sense that you get a true vintage representation. You finally get to right that wrong. Not a perfect figure. The elbows kind of bend a little too far. It is very cartoony, but nevertheless, I picked it up, loved it. Speaking of Super 7, they certainly had a bit of a decrease in output compared to previous years, especially in their Ultimates line. But Silverhawks, Thundercats, this is very much in their kind of wheelhouse of pumping stuff out still. So pretty good showing. I did a video quite some time ago on the Warrior Women from Thundercats, and at the time Willow was coming out, and I sort of suspected they would kind of finish that combo with Nada, who of course did come out in 2025, and it's fun to see them both in hand. Likewise, Silverhawks, I did a video on Melodia, the villain from Monstars Gang, who I very highly suspected they would do, at least before Silverhawks sputtered out. And again, this year we finally got her in hand. Just a great villainous counterpart to Bluegrass. Another character who, she's not a heavy, she's not a main character, but she is certainly a character that people have been sort of clamoring for a long time, back in the vintage days to modern times. So that, of course, would be Captain Marlena Glenn, or Queen Marlena, if you're nasty. She's a character who did not appear in the vintage line. Kind of unsurprisingly, I certainly, wanted her, but, as far as I've talked about this many times, mom characters don't exactly fly off the shelves. Nevertheless, she would get a figure in Masters of the Universe Classics. It's great. It comes with Cringer. It comes with 2 different styles for her, both Astronaut and Queen. But that was it. And especially in this time now, where there are multiple He-Man lines, her exclusion was quite surprising. Nevertheless, in late October of 2025, we finally started to get sort of, kind of rumor lists and some leaked images of a cartoon collection Queen Marlena. So very much in that, obviously Filmation cartoon style. The women in that line tend to run a little shorter, than Origins, but I do kind of suspect this is your one and done deal. She and King Randor sort of came out near the tail end of this year as almost sort of like a mini wave between the two of them. Nevertheless, in the original video it did, there was packaging art of her from the 2000X series. And if sort of later in the series she had a bit of a really badass like snake armor look. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that, particularly with a 2000X line running concurrent to all these as almost a separate cartoon collection. Last up is a wild one. I did a video this year on the kind of Tim Burton, Schumacher, Batman vs. women that we didn't get back in the 90s. And of course, you know, I think the main one really would have been Vicky Vale, who, kind of like Marlena, not exactly someone's really clamoring for, but, you know, certainly a main character, and certainly someone who was missing from the Toy Biz Batman 89 line. Not long after I did the video, Spin Master came out of nowhere and said, we're doing, you know, kind of retro lines. Much more Kenner-ish than Toy Biz, but nevertheless, you know, a Vicky Vale, a very cartoonish one at that, but we got a Vicky Vale figure this year, which is wild. Unfortunately, we didn't get a Lois Lane from Superpowers. Who could have thought that? As for looking ahead to 2026, I have no inside information here. I truly don't. This time last year, for this video for 2024, we got a tease for Janine Melnitz from Mondo's Real Ghostbusters. I would suspect she will go up for pre-order perhaps January 2026 and then release, let's say, August. Just doing sort of the backwards math here based off of the other releases. She's a great figure, one of my most anticipated, but there's a lot more coming. With Mondo in mind, they also sort of showed a tease, an announcement, bit of both in regards to Bravestar. They apparently have a Bravestar license, and the kind of running assumption here is that they're going to be doing these sort of in scale with their Ghostbusters or 2000X figures, so much more kind of that 6 and 7 inch scale line. I would love to finally get Judge J.B. McBride and Vipera from that line. So we'll see how far it goes. We'll see what comes of it. I would love to make that, you know, little discussion late next year. So fingers crossed. As for other figures, I mean, it's just a time and tide will tell. Big Bad Workshop is doing a Cops line, so I would love to see, you know, Mainframe, Misdemeanor, you know, that whole cast fill out. However, it's taking a long time just to get Bulletproof, so this might take a while. So we'll see how far they get into that. Otherwise, I mean, there's just other, you know, kind of dormant lines that I just am dying for them to make a comeback. We're talking like Pirates of Darkwater. We're talking Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light. We're talking, you know, Bucky O'Hare. Anytime, I want more Bucky O'Hare. I always want Bucky O'Hare. That's my main collection if I could ever get one, is Bucky. Likewise, the future of the channel, we're going strong. We've certainly, you know, kind of slowed down the release schedule. I really definitely wanted to get a lot out. But frankly, I'm kind of like hitting the ceiling here. I mean, I've really covered a lot of characters, and there's still plenty more I want to get to, but you know, at some point during this year, there's going to be like a real slowdown because I did not expect this to go as long as it did. I'm happy to keep doing this. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy bringing these characters to light. Some of my favorite comments are people who sort of just jump out of nowhere and said like, oh, I can't believe someone finally made a video about this absurdly, you know, obscure character. So it's always fun. But nevertheless, I mean, at some point in the next year, there's going to be a big check, like we're done here. So we'll see what mutation the channel takes from there. But, you know, more to come. Have no fear. And that'll do it for 2025. What a great year. Hopefully next year is better. Nevertheless, we had some great stuff, you know, in terms of the toy universe, some, you know, fun things like Gem and Mask coming back, you know, just Mondo sort of taking off out of nowhere with, you know, just sort of all the best toys. So looking forward to more, looking forward to discussing this with you. And of course, you can always see me on live streams being grossly inappropriate with my crew over in the Retro Cavalcade. And so until then, I will see you there, I'll see you here, and I thank you for watching MIA 80s Ladies.